It's the beginning of a new month, except it's not the beginning of a new month. It's the 11th of a new month, and by the time you're seeing this, it'll probably be the 15th. So it's the middle of a new... Shut up. I'm about to do a giveaway. I'm about to round up a whole bunch of new products, all the new cool stuff that came out in the last month, and then I'm going to do a big giveaway where I'm going to give you a bunch of crap. So don't give me a hassle about it being the middle of the month. You weren't giving me a hassle. I guess I'm just self-conscious. Now I can't think of a better, more awkward time than to introduce my co-host for these giveaways. Hello, it's Blunty.
Hey Joshua, how's it going? You doing good today?
I'm doing fine. I guess I'm having a little bit of an issue, I guess. I always just do these intros right off the cuff and just dive into them, and sometimes it goes better than others. But we are going to round up new products that have come out in the last month. That's what we do. Once a month, we get together. We take a quick look at new products that have come out in the last month to keep you up to date, give us your off-the-cuff thoughts, or sometimes just are like, hey, look, this exists. Go check it out. And then at the end, we do a big giveaway. We'll talk more about the giveaway at the end. But I do want to say, Blunty, people sometimes ask me, hey, have you announced the winners yet? And they expect me to post a video announcing the winners.
But you don't do that, right?
That's right. I have stopped doing that because YouTube has a community page now where you can make posts, and they show up in your timeline just to like videos, but it's just a post with it's just like announcing the winners' names. So I want to say right here at the beginning, because I don't want people to think that I'm like doing fake. I know most people are like, we know you wouldn't do that, Joshua. But sometimes YouTubers will like do fake giveaways and they won't actually give away the prizes. And then that's not cool. So I want people to know I'll be announcing the winners of the giveaway on my community page and as a pinned post, a pinned comment at the top of this video once the announcement is made. So if you're looking for the video and don't see it, I just want you to know that's what's going on. Anyway. Let's dive in to the new products, Blunty, and I'm gonna throw a bone to myself here and start us off with the Xilo 5-inch HD digital freestyle beginner drone bundle. This is my beginner build kit that I made months ago, but we made an analog version, and people are saying now we can do a DJI version, and now we have.
Just in time for a product we'll do later, the V2. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good to see.
Yeah, the DJI V2. Yeah. So if you've been wanting to get into FPV, if you've been looking for my tutorial takes you through the whole build from start to finish, including all the setup and all the flying. If you want to do that with DJI, I'm surprised, Blunty, at how many beginners were buying DJI. I assumed they'd all want analog because it's cheaper.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of the people now are just like, tell me what to buy. I just want a good experience. Let's get into it. And that seems to be DJI for a lot of people. So yeah, again, it's super cool to see this from you and have this kit for people to learn the same way. I see, I'm a part of your Discord, and I see a lot of people come through there who build this kit as their first thing they've ever done with quads, and they follow the video start to finish, and it's super helpful for them. So they have typically very few questions, and it's only if they do some weird stuff. So
yeah,
yeah, super cool to see the HD kit.
You said that just like we rehearsed it. Thank you. That was wonderful. No. Anyway, so that is a thing, and I'll put a link. By the way, there's links to all this stuff down in the video description, and there are table of contents timestamp links. This is going to be a long video. They always are. If at any point you find yourself not wanting to just listen to the whole thing, go check out the video description or check out the timeline, the chapter markers in the YouTube timeline, and you can look for any products that particularly interest you. And there's links to all these products down in the video description if you want to research them a little further. Well, continuing talking about DJI V2 goggles are released or not. I don't know. What's the deal, Blunty?
Sorta.
Yeah.
I feel like they're released. It seems like multiple people have them in hand in the U.S. and multiple people have been shipping them, and a GetFPV shipped around to them. So it does look like they are released. Mm-hmm. So what all the crazy changes, right? What are all the crazy changes?
Well, ironically, there are almost no meaningful changes in these goggles if you're an FPV pilot using a DJI Air unit or a Caddx Vista or any of those, all of the new functionality of the goggles is related to the what might it be related to, Blunty?
An FCC released item, the DJI drone or DJI controller, I would guess. That's my assumption from the information that we've gotten so far. So.
Yep, that seems like a reasonable assumption. I wouldn't be able to comment on any unreleased products, but I can say that if you've been wanting to buy DJI goggles and the V1s have been out of stock forever, you can buy the V2s, or you can buy if you can get a line on a used set of V1s, you're not missing out on really anything, except if you were going to get this new unreleased product that I can't talk about. So for an FPV pilot, get the V1, get the V2. It doesn't really matter. The one thing the V2s do bring to the table is they will have the ability to output video via USB to a smartphone, which is something some people care about if you don't want to buy the smart controller. So that's basically it. And
I do want to point out one thing. It is just like you said, it's the 11th, so we're just learning about the goggles because everybody's getting them, and they're going more mainstream at this point. But it does look from the FCC filings that they've changed the way the antennas transmit and receive. So now, there used to be some TX-RX switching on the antennas, and it would like choose the better of the two between like patches and circular polarized antennas and stuff, depending on how you had them mounted. But it does look like those are stationary now, and they're not like doing swapping for the TX and RX transmitting and receiving based on the FCC documentation.
That's interesting. Does that mean that aftermarket antennas are going to work differently, or the best practices might be different?
It looks like best practices might be different. I would look for like other reviews, maybe for like antennas on those, or people for like longer term studies on those. But it looks like, I think it's like if you're looking at the front of the goggles, like from the outside, it's like top right and bottom left transmit, and top right and bottom left transmit, and then the top left and bottom right receive.
Yeah. So
that will mean that maybe patch things would be different, or like maybe orientation might be different.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not making selections. Again, we just know what the FCC filing said. And so it's hard to know exactly how it'll function totally, but something to consider.
Okay. Yeah, the antennas will still work. It just might be, if you have a mixture of patches and omnis, the best place to plug the patches in might be different than with the V1s. Okay, good to know. We got a little bit of news here. Actually, Blunty, I put this in the new product roundup because we covered this in the news. This is not a new product, but in the news, you got an email forwarded from somebody that relates to the Nebula Pro, or is it all the Caddxes?
It sounded like it was the Vista and the Pro, so anything with that Vista VTX unit was the problem, it sounded like. Instead of the camera sensors, it sounds like it's probably the Vista VTX unit. That's going to be at least a couple months of delayed stock on those. It sounded like it was maybe more than just the Chinese New Year delay. So if you would want one of these things, it's probably a good time to pick one up. Both the Nebula Pro or the Vista. And now it's probably a good time to mention as well, like the Nebula Pro seems to be fairly similar quality to the main DJI camera. I've been flying them pretty extensively, and I don't really see much difference. So I'd probably grab one of these if you're looking for that.
Yeah, we should say, and I guess we should probably reach out to Caddx for an official statement, and perhaps by the time, the problem is they're all on vacation for Chinese New Year, so they may not be answering. But basically, one person got a message from a rep at Caddx saying, oh yeah, it was unusually frank too. They were like, oh yeah, no, we have a chip shortage. We're going to be out of these for months. And I was like, oh, well, if that's true, then anybody who wants one better get one. But we haven't actually independently verified that that's true. I mean, the email looked legit, but who knows?
From one digital system to another, let's look at the Byte VTX. We'll look at the single board VTX today. GetFPV, Race Day Quads, a few other places seem to have this in stock now. So that's definitely...
Yeah, and by the way, I should say, we got product links down in the video description, and there's a whole bunch of different stores that might be carrying any of these products. They are affiliated vendors usually. That means I get a small commission when you click that link, and that's one of the ways we support the work that goes into making these videos. In order to keep life simple while shooting the video, I'm just picking one store and showing their listing on video. But I don't want to get any annoyed emails from anybody at any other stores saying, why aren't you showing ours? I'm going to mix it up. But this is the new single board VTX, right, Blunty? It's only $50. Whereas the other one I think was $100. What else is different about it?
Yeah, it's only 200 milliwatt output power instead of 500 milliwatt.
Gotcha.
And it uses the UFL connector.
Gotcha. So this is for smaller builds, probably. Like I've heard of people putting this in tiny whoops.
Yeah, this seems to be definitely the solution for someone who wants like a small VTX unit. I think a lot of people are moving towards this. I think the only issue for a lot of people is going to be the power output. Unfortunately, this is only going to be 200 milliwatts, so it's not going to get you, super hardcore range.
Yeah. Better range than a typical 25 milliwatt tiny whoop VTX, that's for sure. But certainly not. I mean, 200 milliwatts. There's only so much you can do with digital magic to make up for lack of output power. I felt the range on the 500 milliwatt SharkBite was I didn't feel like I was complaining about it. But I feel like 200 milliwatts I would definitely notice. But it's small, it's light, and it's cheaper, and that certainly is nice. Moving away from video transmitters and DJI and stuff, let's look at some quadcopters and frames that have come out this month. And this is, I think, the one that I am most excited about, but also a little worried about. This is the 250 from Ummagawd. It's available as both a ready-to-fly build and a frame, and it is a sub 250 gram 5-inch freestyle quad.
That it is. And it's Ummagawd's creation. He's been working on this for quite a while. This is obviously his custom frame, the 250. And it seems pretty awesome. And he's got the air lights on here, which are his motors he's been working on. It seems pretty neat. It's just a, sub 250. Like, is it going to be durable enough for you?
Like, I'm super excited that this is a traditional freestyle frame layout. And not most of the sub 250s do more of a toothpick style layout with a stack in the center and some arms. I like the geometry. I like it that it's easier to build than those styles. And it's going to fly and build more like a traditional freestyle quad. But by the time you get down to 250 grams, I just feel like the durability can't be there. I don't know. Yeah. If anybody could do it, he could. That's my take.
So let's look at another bind and fly quad. This is by DaveC FPV. This is the Rekon 5-inch.
Is this one also sub 250? Because DaveC is certainly known for lightweight builds. Doesn't look like...
Don't think this is sub 250. Yeah. I think it's just like, super light, long range, focused, 5-inch. Similar to the 4-inch Explorer or the... what do they call it?
The Flywheel Explorer is, of course, Dave's original design. Yeah. This looks very similar. It does look very similar to the 4-inch. It's just been scaled up, got similar sort of layout of the arms. DaveC has a great pedigree as far as frame designs go. Basically, trust his frame designs implicitly. The electronics on this one, it looks like he's done in partnership with HGLRC. I think HGLRC has a little bit of a hit or miss record. I would be especially hesitant at 20 millimeter or 16 millimeter electronics from them because those are already hard to build. But
sure. But what I would say, if you're going to put it on anything, it seems like a 4S small quad, like a light quad that you're doing long range and kind of babying. Yeah. It seems to be a decent application for that.
I do like that they've gone to the 2004 motors instead of some of the 1404s that the 4 inches had. It's going to add weight, but you're going to get a lot more performance.
We're seeing that trend a lot.
Yeah.
Which is, I do like that trend.
Yeah, we're going to actually look at some 2004 and other motors in just a little bit. Right. Well, here's another lightweight ready-to-fly quad as well as a frame if you choose to build it yourself. This is the Diatone Roma L3. It is the 3-inch version of the Diatone Roma F4, which I reviewed in my micro long-range roundup. I'm a big fan of these frames. The F4 ready-to-fly, I had a little bit of vibration issues. It wasn't my favorite, but maybe the F3 is doing a little better. This guy under 250? What do you think, Blunty? Let's see if we can figure it out.
I guess it's probably right around that pocket.
Yeah.
I'm not 100% sure.
That's how it seems.
Looks like it's meant to carry like SMO 4K, something like that.
Yep.
120 grams without the battery. That's not bad.
1206 motors. Yeah. Okay.
You could probably squeeze that under 250.
Maybe not with the SMO 4K though, right? Maybe.
No, definitely not with the SMO.
$300, $289. Interesting. I really liked the Diatone Roma F5. It's been a while since I reviewed a Diatone product. I don't know. I hate to feel like I'm picking on Diatone, but it just is what it is. I think Diatone tries new things, and when you try new things, you're going to fail more often than if you were safe, if you played it safe. And so many of the stuff Diatone sends me, I'm like, oh, this is so good, but... And then there's some deal breaker. And the Roma F5, I was so thrilled to just be able to say, this is a great, great quad. And I just have no hesitation about it. So hopefully the Roma L3 is more like that. Let's talk about frames. You brought this one in. What are we looking at here?
Yeah, this is Evan Turner, 533's new Switchback Pro frame kit. So this is a sequel to the Switchback Classic frame, which is what they're calling the original Switchback. So this just makes some minor improvements for racers and makes it a little more durable. And yeah, just modernizes the frame a little more. It's cool to see them making evolutions, still keeping the old classic for people that want the same thing they've been flying, so they can have the same as their old racing quad lineup and stuff. Yeah.
Nice. Well, I don't think you can argue with Evan's pedigree. And nice to see that they've updated this frame. Now, this is available pretty much, I think, exclusively. Evan doesn't do resellers, does he? He ships all his own stuff from his website and from his garage. So you're basically going to be getting this,
I believe he
from
does.
533. There is a European seller if you are in the EU or overseas and you want to pick this up. You do not have to pay shipping from the USA. And of course, there's links to that down in the video description.
We should point out too, there's also 3 arm configurations, so they've also got some more options for this one too. You got 5.1 inch prop, 6 inch prop arms. We've got ones that are made for the Switchback V1 braces, so lots of different choices for folks who want to fly this.
Slick. Well, from a high-performance racing frame to a high-performance freestyle frame, the Lumineer QAV-S was one of the most appealing frames in my lightweight freestyle frame Roundup. Link to that in the video description. I'm looking for a new lightweight freestyle frame for my ultimate perfect freestyle build, and the QAV-S is near the top of the list, but I didn't like some of the stuff about it, like the split top plate. And people pointed out that the Johnny FPV version addresses some of those issues. Check this out, Blunty. It's a QAV-S. It's been stretched to hold an air unit because Johnny likes the air unit. And it's got a solid top plate and something else going on here with vibration isolation for the camera, as well as a metal front end instead of a carbon front end. So,
Interesting.
Yeah.
Lots of improvements.
I mean, I think I would say it's debatable whether they're improvements. If you're Johnny, then they're improvements. I like the metal front end for sure. It does add weight though. And I think the Vista, the Vista to me, I would take the 15-ish grams of weight saved compared to the air unit. But obviously Johnny doesn't feel the same way.
Yeah, the air unit seems to be a dying breed in most DJI pilots, especially because of the SD card issues. I think that most people are flying the Vista.
That's a good point. There's a firmware bug, isn't there? It's like causes the DVR to not work, and that's kind of like one of the whole reasons you get the air unit.
Yeah, it's a SD card slow error. There's like a very few people I've talked to have never seen it, but like most people I've talked to, I've had it eventually. You get maybe like 1 flight to 8 flights, and then you get SD card slow until you reformat that card again. And it's unfortunate because you just can't get recordings off that air unit like reliably.
Yeah. Other people have pointed out that the air unit is if you're not carrying a GoPro, the air unit records audio, which is very useful for tuning and troubleshooting. But if you're not getting DVR from the air unit, you may as well go with the Vista. I said to Lumineer, I would be very interested in seeing a standard QAV-S with a solid top plate and maybe a couple other changes. And they may be sending me some parts to try that out. So maybe there'll be a JB version of this at some point in the future. Maybe it'll be in this very Roundup.
Nice. People have been asking for a JB frame for a minute.
Yeah, well, I never had a good reason to do it before. Frames, let's start talking about motors. I think we're gonna go through this a little bit quickly, Blunty, because I mean, on some level, what can you say about a motor until you fly it? But there is one motor out there that definitely deserves to be talked about, and that is the FPVCycle 5-inch motor. And the first question that people always ask is, well, what size is it?
Yeah, it is a size 4 or 5-inch quads. That's what it's sized for.
Yeah, he won't say the actual size because he thinks it'll make it a little bit harder for people to copy it. It's a big honking motor, though. It's bigger than a 2306.
Yeah.
It's bigger even than like a 2407, at least in diameter. I would guess it's in the 25 diameter, roughly. But the weight is comparable to most 2306s. I can't find the weight here. I think it's like 33 grams, which is shocking that they have this big of a motor at that size.
Yeah, Bob's been really like often trying to find ways to cut weight that aren't like super making a lot of what do you call it? He's not pulling a lot of punches on design, I guess. Like it's not, the motor is still nice and durable.
Yeah, he's not making a lot of compromises.
But there you go. I don't know why I couldn't remember the word compromise.
That's okay. Yeah, he's got this in 3 different versions: the Imperial, the Emerald, and the where's the other one? Isn't there one more? I thought there was one more version.
I think it's just the Imperial and the Emerald.
Oh, my bad. I thought there was the Imperial, the Standard, and the Emerald. Well,
I think the Emerald is the standard.
Oh, all right. Well, fair enough. He said they're made by 2 different OEMs. He says they have similar performance, but there are some cosmetic differences, and one of them's a little cheaper than the other. I have to say, I actually got to fly some of these, and I have a video coming out on my channel, so definitely make sure you're subscribed and hit that notification bell so you see that if YouTube chooses to show it to you. Like, I don't even know how notifications work anymore. But my first test for any new motor is I fly it back to back with like a 2207 or a 2306 that I'm familiar with, and I see if I can tell any difference. And I have to say,
yep.
I think I could. I mean, it wasn't a blind test, but there may be something to this. So anyway.
All right, so let's move to another 5-inch motor, the Velox V2 from T-Motor. Looks like there's 2 versions of this motor. There's like a fancy futuristic version and a standard bell version.
Yeah, here it is. I found it. This is the Velox V2 Rose Gold Edition. Fancy. I mean, I don't know if that's going to make you fly better, but fancy. So they got the plain version, which is I see. The plain version is $13. The fancy version is $17. That's a really good price for what is presumably a decent motor, because T-Motor generally doesn't make stinker motors.
Yeah, I wonder if we're seeing the Eco 2 push these prices down a little bit, because $14 is awesome. And
yeah,
I think this looks like a pretty solid motor. The weight's there. It's like 33 grams, 33.4.
Yeah.
That's not bad.
I think you're probably right.
22,
the Emax Eco 2 line is the standard by which all budget motors must be measured. They're very good motors at a ridiculous price. Some people have suggested that Emax is intentionally selling them at almost no profit just to try to establish themselves as a motor manufacturer. I don't know if that's true, but yeah. Of course, they're not rose gold crinkle texture, so of course there's that. But that's they come in a bunch of different colors actually. Let's pull those up. Yeah, there's the plain. They come in a blue, rose gold. That's the original Velox is the gold. Anyway, there you go.
All right, so let's move on from that. We'll go to the Diatone Mamba Toka motors. So this is a whole series of motors it looks like Diatone's putting out. A bunch of different sizes. Seems like pretty reasonable prices as well.
Yeah. Really cool bell design. They have 2 bell designs here. One is this kind of concave design where it kind of, and one is a kind of a convex design where it kind of bows out for the smaller motors. Both of them look super premium. I'm going to pull up the 2207. $20 for 2207. That's a pretty good price. I like that they've got this skirt here.
I don't even know what that skirt is for, actually. What is that skirt for?
It's to keep if the screw pokes through. If your screw's too long, it doesn't damage the wires. I mean, it kind of looks bad, but
Oh, okay.
but for beginners especially who make that mistake a lot, it's a great way to protect the screw from cutting the wires. It's a nice touch.
Yeah, that is a nice little touch. I don't think I've seen that.
There are a few that do that. So these motors, I flew these on the Diatone Roma F5. I thought they were pretty good. Obviously not doing a thrust stand or anything to say how efficient they are, but I didn't have any complaints about them. They're beautiful motors. They're kind of understated, but also kind of flashy at the same time with the silver and the orange. I will say I have seen a few reports of these top spokes breaking in, like, I suppose you hit the shaft maybe or something and it stresses it. So I've seen a couple of pictures of these top spokes breaking, and it's hard. Everybody always says, oh yeah, it just crashed into a pile of pillows and it broke. So who knows? But that does seem to be like, if the motor's going to break, that is a place where it's going to break. And I guess you can see that those spokes are pretty thin. So
I think that's similar to the newbie drone move motor. Didn't that have the same issue with like a V1 and then they made like a V2 to fix that?
Yeah, I don't know.
It's like they re-released it. It's like the same. They didn't make a V2, but like they started fixing, like they made a different metal or something.
Yeah, you can see it says right here, upgraded bell design for durability. I don't know why there should be.
I think they had the same issue. I think it was like a breakout situation where those spokes were breaking, and then the same thing was happening.
I can't find a top-down picture right here on this page, but you can definitely see the spokes are a lot thicker on the smooth motor compared to the Toka. So maybe that's a thing that they changed. Those motors are pretty standard 5-inch sizes, but we got a bunch of motors here that I wanted to run through that are in this new size for lightweight 4-inch and 5-inch builds. And we'll start off with the Brother Hobby Avenger 2004. These are the motors that Catalyst Machine Work put on my 4-inch Shocker, which I love. These 2004 motors, they fly so good for lightweight 4-inch and maybe even 5-inch. So much better than like the 1407 or maybe 13 somethings. I'm a big fan of them. You got any chance to fly motors like this, Blunty?
I haven't actually flown any of these style motors, but it seems like the way to go. I mean, if you just think about the physics of the motor design, if you can deal with the weight from getting that motor out farther, then it's just going to be better for everyone. I think that's typically the case, because if you think of a merry-go-round or whatever, that moment of inertia, if you're pushing from farther out, it's just easier for the motor to push.
Yeah.
So I think if you get a bigger motor like this, it's just easier to push these bigger props. So a 4-inch or maybe even a 5-inch, you can kind of get around fairly easily with something like this, compared to a 1407 or 1406 was like you said, the traditional way to do a quad like that.
Yeah, I think the argument that Kebab makes is that the larger diameter motors give you more torque, more control at low throttle, better throttle response. He can certainly speak for himself, but the limiting factor is that as the diameter gets past a certain point, you don't have enough magnetic field strength you'll get desyncs, and the magnets are moving faster because the diameter is bigger. So Bob basically seems to design motors to be as large in diameter as he can get away with without having desyncs, and that is just a totally new approach, but that certainly seems to be reflected in motors like this one. In addition, T-Motor has a 2004, so fine. Got a T-Motor 2004 motor, probably a pretty good motor, just T-Motor tends to make good motors. We've got here a 2203 3.5, if that extra 0.5 millimeter was too much for you. This one stood out to me, Blunty, because you brought a build-in that had this motor in it into the news last Tuesday.
Yeah, we saw a 6-inch racing drone build that actually got 55 minutes going 40 kilometers an hour on this motor. It's a custom frame. It's pretty light, but I just think that's super awesome. So yeah, it's pushing the boundaries. I think you mentioned this is actually something that used to happen, and now it's happening again, the 2203.
Yeah, I mean, 2203 used to be the standard size for like a 5-inch mini quad, but I mean, they were very, very different motors back then. The magnets were weaker, the design wasn't there. I'm shocked to hear that somebody's running a 6-inch prop on a motor this small. It's probably a very lightweight 6-inch, maybe a T-mount, but still just shows how far we've come, that a motor this small can fly for 55 minutes, cruising at least, on a prop that big. We've also got the iFlight Zing 2005. This is the first time I've seen a 2005. 2004 seems to be where most people are at for the lightweight 4-inch builds and lightweight 5-inch builds. Seems like this would be an okay motor, maybe for something like a 250 or 300 gram 5-inch, where maybe that 2004 just doesn't quite have the torque to handle a 5-inch prop as ideally as you'd like. So that's pretty slick. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, you want to get something done, you know, in the flight. I think it's a little better for maybe like a little more aggressive flight.
Yep, got a 3-blade on here in the picture, 3-blade T-mount. We've also got this one. Now this isn't for 5-inch. This is the FPVCycle 13 millimeter. What's this one for, Blunty?
This is for like the baby tooth builds. So this is a 3-inch typically, and it's like this is a 1S or a 2S version. So this used to be a 1202.5 from FPVCycle, but now they've gone up to a 13. Reportedly, it's like a 1302-ish style motor, which you know, again, he's just going a little bit bigger on that diameter, as big as you can get it, and still make sense with the weight.
Yep.
So
that's Bob's approach.
Love to see the progress.
So this would be for if you were running like a baby tooth or a toothpick, right? On 1S and 2S. Yep. Okay. Slick. Oh, and that's it. I think we're out of motors. Cool.
Right.
Well, as long as we're talking about motors, let's talk about this prop. This is the Gemfan Moonlight V2. It's a light-up LED prop. I've got a review on my channel, or actually, it's not so much a review because actually I couldn't legally fly it at night because of FAA regulations. So I put some links in the video to someone else flying it in China, but I do show how they go together. They got really, really cool technology for how they made this work. Like, do you see that only one of the props is actually lit up?
Right. Yeah, I guess the original idea was that it would be hard to get LEDs down all 3 propellers, and you'd add so much weight, and you'd have to power them and all that kind of stuff. So instead, they've just put it down one, and then because you're spinning them, you kind of get it down all of them.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. So it spins, and it looks amazing. It just looks amazing. Here you can see the little PCB with the LED on it. So somebody in my comments section was like, why is no one talking about the price of these props? It's $6 for the prop, and then the batteries are, I don't know if they went to their local CVS and they got gouged for the batteries. The batteries are $10 a piece. Why, you're going to spend $70 on a set of 4 props. And I was like, no. It's $6 for a set of 4 props. And the batteries can be like $1 a piece from Amazon. So it's still not super cheap. It's about 3 times as expensive as regular props, and you definitely don't want to crash them, but they freaking look badass. They look so badass. So,
yeah, and I think that all the electronics come out of these, so you can, if you crash these props, you can buy no electronic versions for like a fairly normal prop price.
Correct.
And then you can put the electronics in them.
Yeah, if the electronics are intact, you can, I mean, it's just a little PCB, so eventually I think it'll tear, but if they're intact, you can just buy, they actually sell it without the electronics, and it's cheaper, and you can, replace them. So cool, Gemfan. Well done. Link to my review in the video description. All right, Blunty, let's talk about flight controllers. What do we got here?
TBS is getting back in the game. You know, they had some flight controllers quite a while ago. They are now doing a Z's flight controller in a collaboration as their new PodRacer 30 amp AIO, calling it a true 30 amp. So the FETs are actually 30 amp FETs. Mm-hmm. And they're doing the traditional Z's stacking. So they're using the hard pin headers to put on the Pro 32 HV and the Crossfire or Tracer Nano.
Nice. That's going to be very, very compact for racers. I always hesitate a little bit with hard soldering like this. I know that racers they just like send it. But for a typical person, if you need to repair this for any reason, getting this desoldered without a hot air gun is pretty challenging to do this without damaging one of the 2 components. And fill up the comments with people saying, what are you talking about? I did that. It's fine. It's my opinion. What's your opinion of Z's as a manufacturer? Like, good, medium?
It seems like It seems like they have some good concepts and good design ideas. I know they worked with Bob on the original 1S board for FPVCycle, but I do know he eventually moved away from them to a different manufacturer for his 1S board. And I know I have some of the same concerns you do about the solid pin headers. I'm not sure it's the best solution for something like this, but it definitely does make it compact. So.
Yeah, I've had a couple builds with Z's in them. They sent me a couple flight controller ESC stacks. One is the 30mm stack, one is the 20mm stack, and I am no longer flying any of them due to hardware failure. One of them, I think, the ESC popped. The 20mm stack, the gyro was pretty noisy. I couldn't move the filter sliders to the right like at all without getting flyaways. And it flew fine once I left the filter sliders down a little bit, but I thought that was pretty unusual. And so I just, a sample size of like 2 or 3 pieces, but I haven't had a spectacular experience with them. For an all-in-one like this, it's always challenging to make an all-in-one like this. None of them have a perfect track record, and I certainly would consider Z's to probably be on par with somebody like a Beta FPV, who also doesn't have a great track record. But they don't stand out as like rocks, like T-Motor ESC. That ain't going nowhere. And I just don't feel that way about Z's, but cool.
One other caveat I'd like to mention with this board is it is an F411. So because the way they've designed it, it's meant for Crossfire and smart audio. So you'll basically get one full UART for Crossfire, and then you just get a single TX pad as your other UART.
Wow.
So if you need a second full UART, you have to soft serial it. And they actually recommend soft serialing it for the GPS, if you need a GPS. So I think that's an interesting suggestion, but just so you know, like that's one of the main limiting factors on this board. You don't have 2 full UARTs accessible. You do have to soft serial that second RX pad.
I gotta say, as I think about that, like the price of this is $70, which is way more than you're going to pay for like a Beta FPV. But hey, you're getting Z's and TBS quality. But if we look at the iFlight Beast H7, which is a 25mm all-in-one. 55 amp, supposedly 55 amp ESCs. I
think I would look at the F7. I think that's probably
hang on,
because the F7 is $20 cheaper.
Yeah, okay, that's the H7, the F7, 45 amp ESCs. To be fair, I don't even think the amp rating is where most DSCs fail anyway. You're seldom pulling more than, say, like you might pull 150 amps for a second or two, but you're never sustained at more than 80, let's say 60, 80 amps for most people. So the amp rating, I think it's more about the board design and the ability to resist voltage spikes, which is not represented by the amp rating. But $70, F7 processor. And I don't know if we can find a pinout diagram, but I'm going to bet they have a fair amount of UARTs broken out. Look here, UART 7. Here's R1 and T1 over here. Yeah, so I mean, the big question I would ask, okay, so you don't get to direct solder. You don't get to direct solder the receiver and the VTX. That certainly is something, but I feel like you're getting a lot more capability out of the flight controller with something like this. Well, there you go. Now we will get comments in the comments section talking about how much we hate TBS and how unfair we're being. That's just a fact anytime you say anything negative about a TBS product, but that is life, and we're just going to go on with it.
All right, so let's look at another board. So this is an H7 instead of the F4 we looked at and the F7 we talked about. This is a Dominic Clifton board, SPRacing, and this is actually available on GetFPV, so you don't have to order it from Spain. Yeah. Seems like a pretty cool little board. This is the all-in-one flight controller, so this is meant for single ESCs, but he also makes a 4-in-1 version of this.
Yeah, we're covering this one here. It's not actually a new product, but it's new that's being carried by GetFPV. Traditionally, he's based out of Spain, and his store is in the EU. And when you buy his product, when I've bought his products in the past, I've had to have it shipped over from the EU, which is a little bit of a hassle. People who live in the EU are like, shut up, you don't know how it is. But I'm used to getting things quickly, and now you can. It's a pretty cool flight controller if you're using individual ESCs. And he has a version of it called the SPRacing H7 Zero that's used with a 4-in-1. Look at all these freaking pads. He's just crammed these pads on here, dude. It's crazy.
Yeah, this is definitely form or function over form,
Yeah.
which is good.
They're big pads, though. It's nice, except for these little camera pads. He ships it with plug headers that you can solder on if you want, or you can direct solder.
I see. And you said there's also, I think you mentioned to me, we talked about this before, there's a daughter board?
Yeah, so this thing supports up to 12 D-Shot motor outputs. So you're building a 12-motor quad, go for it. Not 12-motor quad, that would be a quad.
Dodecacopter?
Right, a dodecacopter. This plug right here, this stacking pin header, is a daughter board you can buy that adds motor outputs and other things. So, pretty amazing. H7s, here's another flight controller. This is the FlightOne Lightning H7. This is FlightOne's new flight controller, and it's out of stock. I'm sorry, I couldn't resist.
Yeah, the biggest issue I know about this flight controller is 100% that you just got to try to find it.
It's coming soon. It has been. I don't know how long it's been coming soon. This is pretty cool. This runs Falco X, right? That's their flight control software.
Yeah. Yep.
It's got both 30 millimeter and 20 millimeter ears, so you can break this off and mount it on a 20 or a 30 with no adapter. And it comes in colors for your favorite pilot. Oh, it even has a pad version. Oh, slick. For the low profile builds.
Ooh.
That's pretty slick, actually. Plugs or pads. That's kind of...
I do like that.
Cricket likes plugs, I think. No, Cricket was the one who removed the plugs from his version of the Revolt, and he direct solders. But if you like plugs, you can go for it. So, all right. If you can find it in stock, Falco X is pretty cool. You can find it in stock.
All right, so let's take a look at some Happymodel bind and fly quads. We've got the Moblite 6 and the Moblite 7. These are little 1S versions, basically of the Mobula 6 and the Mobula 7. And now they've shrunk them and made them even lighter. And they're kind of cutting into Mr. Shutterbug territory, if you guys know who that is. He's been making these small quads that are very similar to this.
Yeah.
It's just pretty cool to see a company producing something like that.
Yeah, this is insane. The 6 looks like it's standard layout. The 7 looks like they've converted it to a pusher. Is that right? Is that?
That might be...
is that a different design? Hang on.
Click on the first picture on that image, on the GetFPV.
No, it's not a pusher. It's just upside down. I'm sorry. That's my bad. Here is the Moblite 7. Here's the Moblite 6. Please continue, Blunty. I'm an idiot.
So this is using their Diamond F4 controller, I think is what it's called. Yeah, the Diamond F4 FR. So it's got the SPI receiver on it, and it's actually a cutaway, so it only has 3 corners. They've actually cut a corner away for weight.
Yeah, this is what we're at. You have to do like crazy things to save weight. Every fraction of a gram counts. So we've talked about these previously and speculated about their durability. When they get lighter, they get more fragile, but they also crash better because they don't have as much mass.
Right. I think when you're at this size of quad, I mean, the goal we've been pushing for forever is to get them lighter and lighter. So I think until we see them falling apart when you fly them, I like this like trend to get it lighter like this. You know, the Mr. Shutterbug builds are pretty intense because they're using like motor wire for the camera wire and such. But this is kind of a happy medium between that, where it's like a produced product that hopefully is somewhat durable that they've tested, but it's still light and you kind of get that feel. You know, 18.5 grams on the 6 without the battery. So it's pretty light.
Yeah, there's no doubt that at this size of quad, the lighter you make it, the better it's going to fly, because you've lost all flingability when you're flying a quad this small. So you just want to maximize the power to weight ratio and get that awesome performance. So if you are looking to get into the ultra lightweight category, but you don't want to go through and shave off all those grams yourself, the Mobilite 6 is $90 and the Mobilite 7 is $90. So just take your pick and give it a try. Want to fly one of those quads with that built-in SPI receiver, you are not going to be doing it with a FreeSky radio. And that brings us to our next product. FreeSky basically doesn't want you using third-party receivers. And so on the latest FreeSky firmwares, well, you could do it if you had an XJT module that you buy and you put on your radio, but not the built-in module. And that brings us to radios like this one, the Jumper T-Lite with the 4-in-1 module. Blunty, I got a review of this up on my channel, so I've kind of said all I have to say about it. What's your opinion of this radio? Do you have any opinion?
It seems like a cool option. I know a lot of people have been going with the Beta FPV Lite radio 2 SE as an option, and this seems like another spot for them that's a little higher up, and it hopefully doesn't have the same gimbal issues and things that the Lite Radio 2 SE has. I know that's had quite a lot of gimbal issues. It seems fairly fully featured. Yeah, I'm pretty impressed with it. I think one of the major issues, we talked about on the news, we did the FPV news. We discussed the issues with Crossfire and other external modules because the way that it's wired, if you don't use a super high discharge lithium ion cell, you can only go up to like 25 to 100 milliwatts, and then you can only go up to 250 milliwatts. Even then, you can't max out to the whole full 1 watt that you would expect on those units with this thing. So that's something to bear in mind if you are going to buy this and maybe also fly Crossfire or something. Yeah,
if you're not flying Crossfire, I agree. It seems like a solid option if you're using a standard 2.4 gigahertz receiver. Even if you are going to use Crossfire at this price, you may be willing to jump through some hoops to get the full performance. And there's guys like Albert Kim and Gal Kremer and other people whose names are not coming to me or working behind the scenes, but I don't want to take credit away from them. These folks are working to get Crossfire working at full capability on this radio. The unknown, my review said basically, link in the video description, obviously, that this is a solid radio for the price, and there really isn't anything out there with this capability at this price. There's better radios like the Tango 2 that cost $200 when you $150, $200, and there's worse radios like the Lite radio that are cheaper. Not that it's a bad radio, it just doesn't have the capabilities of this one. So this one kind of stands alone, but with Jumper, it always feels like there's going to be another version in a few months that maybe fixes some of the things that are weird about this, and you're never sure whether it's the right time to pull the trigger.
And to be fair, we'll likely see a Radio Master clone of this as well.
Although, so the word on the street is the Radio Master version of this, I think they're calling it the T8, doesn't have a module bay. This one didn't have a module bay either, and they retrofitted it, and that's why there's all these problems with making Crossfire work, because it wasn't designed for Crossfire from the beginning. And then the T8 has been delayed, so maybe Radio Master's gone back to the drawing board, and they're adding a module bay. Don't know.
And so for moving on for a way to control those tiny whoops to a way to look at those tiny whoops, we're going to look at the Skyzone Cobra X and Cobra S diversity goggles. I think these are really some amazing goggles. I haven't seen your review yet. I'm not sure exactly how you feel about them, but this seems like a really a big step for the hobby, just because when people get in, they're looking at buying a Fat Shrek style goggle or a box style goggle, right? And so you're getting a Fat Shrek style goggle, or you're buying a receiver module, and you're spending $70 for a wildfire to like $150 for a rapid fire. And that's a lot of get in to the hobby for a price, but you want a quality analog experience when you start so that you enjoy the flight and you stay in the hobby. I think this kind of seems to do the best of both worlds, because the receiver module in here is the same one that they use in the Skyzone Skyo 4X, which seems to be similar to the rapid fire, if not the same, or close to on par.
Yeah, on paper, they say that I think they're calling it the Rapid Mix receiver. On paper, they say that it is doing the same image processing magic that receivers like the Rapid Fire, the Fusion, and the Clearview do. In testing the Skyo 4X, I feel like it was very close to performance of those modules. Maybe not quite as good, but very, very good. Better than most other analog modules. And if these guys have the same module in them, I've actually done the range testing, but I haven't had a chance to go back and look at the footage yet. So I actually don't know. But the build quality on these is super good. The image quality for the X, the image quality on the S is okay, but it's kind of low resolution. I think, I'm sorry, the X is the The S is 800 by 480. The X is 1280 by 720. The X is obviously better, good image quality, great capabilities of the goggles. If you're looking to spend a fair amount of money for a box goggle on a really good box goggle, as opposed to most people who are looking for box goggles who just want to save as much money as they can, I think these are a solid choice. See, we're nearly done here. We're going to close out with the product that I think we're going to do a giveaway of. And if people are reading the tabs on my screen, maybe they'll figure out what it is. But before we do that, I got a couple other quick updates that I want to do. The first one is the Vifly Short Saver. This is a solid state digital version of a smoke stopper. I have a review of it up talking about why it's great. I'll put a link to that down in the video description. They've got the Short Saver 2 that they've come out with, and they added, I have wanted someone to do this forever. Look right here. What an on-off button so that you can bind your freaking FreeSky receiver with a button. You know, you plug it in and then you just press the on button and while you're holding down your bind button instead of having to plug it in. So that's slick. Thank you, Vifly, for that. Go ahead.
I think you can also change the short circuit overcurrent trip time. Now that's on a button instead of having to solder the pads on the pad.
Oh, that's nice too. Yeah, that's nice too. Good. Okay. Fine. Thank you, Vifly, for that. And I don't think the price went up either. Well worth $12. If this saves you from frying one ESC or one motor, and it will, because you will screw up eventually, it's going to be worth the money. So well worth having. This product is the Vifly Store Safe Smart LiPo Discharger. We've seen versions of this before that discharge your batteries. Does it take it to storage voltage? Yeah, it discharges you down to storage. You just plug it in. What I like about this one is it's got a freaking heatsink on it, so presumably it's going to work a little faster. Like, I don't even know, but presumably with a heatsink it'll work a little faster. Discharging power 1 watt. That's not bad. So yeah, get them down to storage voltage quickly. Fine, done. And we've got the Foxier Cat Micro Starlight. You actually put this on the list. Was there something you wanted to say about this, Blunty?
No, I think they've had the Cat 2 for a while. The Cat 3 has come out, and it seems to be solid upgrade on the Cat 2. Reviews seem pretty positive. So
good for low light conditions like night flying, and optimal footage when exposed to LEDs. So if you're a nighttime racer who races with LEDs, it's very good at that. All right, cool. And that brings us to the final product of the roundup. And normally I hold the giveaway item as a kind of in suspense, but I already decided before we even went into this today that this would be, I think, the most interesting thing to give away, because a lot of people are interested in quadcopter backpacks but cannot bring themselves to spend $150 to $200 on a specialized backpack. And there are 2 new backpacks that are coming out recently, and I think that's a great time to give one of them to somebody who maybe couldn't afford it. What do you carry your stuff in, Blunty? Do you have a special backpack like this, or do you have some other solution?
Yeah, I have the QuadCard BPX3.
Gotcha.
For the low pro, the big one.
Do you find, I mean, obviously you must because you use it. Do you find that there are advantages to that compared to just like throwing all your stuff into a military backpack or a duffel bag?
100%. You've got props and stuff. You've got radios. You got gimbals. You got goggle screens. You've got batteries and cords, and there's just so many things that will mess up the other things in your bag. That I feel like it makes a lot of sense to have a specialized quadcopter bag, or at least some sort of camera bag. With pockets.
Yeah, my take on it. There's 2 things I think are the big advantage of this. One is that if you have just like a big duffel bag or traditional style backpack, then you are going to take all your stuff and you're going to put it in additional bags. Your goggles are going to go into a case, your tools are going to go into a case, your props are going to go into a case, and all of that will go into the big bag. But when you have a camera style bag like this with internal dividers and pockets, it becomes the bag. And then all your stuff goes into it without any additional storage, and it's all just there ready to go.
So we've got the PyroDrone backpack here, and then we've got the AULine backpack, right?
I've been saying AULine. People tell me that AU is the chemical symbol for gold, and it should be Goldline. But that's stupid because if I said Goldline, you would never look up the company because you would not think to spell it AULine. So I'm just going to say AULine, and there you go. You can say whatever you want.
All right.
I'm kind of mad that they named their company Goldline, and then they spelled it AULine. I'm legit kind of annoyed about this. But anyway, continue.
So are there any defining features that you've seen here? Do you know anything about these backpacks? Is there a reason to pick one over the other?
I mean, the PyroDrone one is big. Someone has sent me a picture of it compared to the Torvol Pitstop Pro, which is my daily driver. It is not carry-on sized. It's way too big. So if you fly in airplanes a lot, there is a smaller version of the PyroDrone pack that is coming, who knows when. The Goldline, I believe, is carry-on size, but I'm actually not 100% sure about that. To me, the materials of, just from the product photos, the materials of the PyroDrone bag look higher quality, whereas the materials of the Goldline, god dang it, now I'm so annoyed. The materials of the AULine look a little cheaper. I actually, now that I see the AULine is available from within the USA, and I might not have to pay overseas shipping, I might go ahead and get one. Pyro is sending me one of their packs, so I will be checking them out. But the other thing I wanted to say about this style of bag, Blunty, is that the advantage is that you can just leave it packed. Like, I actually have just a second set of tools that I just leave in there. I always keep some props in it, right? I obviously don't like have a spare set of goggles that I leave in it. But basically, when I want to go fly, I grab my controller, I grab my goggles, I grab my quads, I put it in there, and I'm ready to go. And I can feel very confident that I haven't forgotten that one thing that I'm going to wish I'd brought. And if I do, then when I get back from the trip, I stuff it in there. And that's the real advantage of having, I guess you can do that if you have a regular backpack, but I think it's easier when it's all organized and kind of ready to go. That's my take on it. So,
is the company logo a line and then an A? Is that what they look?
Apparently.
Now I'm really confused. So it's A line?
Yeah, right. There's no U.
Sorry, I think I'm flabbergasted as you are about this.
And I gotta say, I mean, I like many of the products that AULine makes. There's their full logo right here, AULine. I like many of their products.
Oh,
I just think
so they just cut out the front.
Company name is kind of... this month, this is what we're going to give away. And by the way, you can see that these products are on back order. The AULine is on back order. The PyroDrone is on pre-order. So if you win the prize, you may not get it for a few weeks or maybe even a little longer. But we're going to do our best to make sure you get it. These things are about $200, $150. Let's give away 4 of them. It'll be your pick. If you win, you may choose either the AULine or the PyroDrone. It's up to you. If you're outside the USA and you order the PyroDrone, we'll have to see about we'll figure it out, but the shipping may be expensive because backpacks are gigantic. Oh well, we'll have to see what's what. But the way to enter the giveaway is down in the video description below. There is the full legal terms and conditions for the giveaway, including a link to a Google form. You click that link, you go to the Google form, you put your email address in, and that is how you enter the giveaway. The winners will be announced. Typically, I do about 3 days for the giveaway to be open, and then there's the cutoff date for entries. And then after that cutoff date, 3 or 4 days from whenever you're seeing this, well, from whenever I release this, then I will draw the winners. I will announce the winners via a community post on my community page of my YouTube channel and via a comment pinned at the top of this video's comments section. Which one would you take, Blunty, between the two?
I would probably go with the PyroDrone pack. It's a little bit cheaper, and it seems like a solid pack. Yeah, I don't know, but it's hard to know.
Yeah.
This is something I might want to look at reviews and stuff.
Yeah.
For.
Well, we'll see if I can get him in hand and maybe do a review.
Yeah.
I have to decide if I'm going to be getting on a plane at any point in the future. Because if this is too big for a carry-on, then I'm not going to want to change all my stuff over to a smaller bag if I get used to the bigger one. But $150 and it's bigger. Anyway, you'll get to decide for yourself if you are one of the winners. That's going to bring us to the end of the new product roundup and giveaway. Thank you so much, Blunty. That's February knocked out. And I'll see you again in March.
Yeah, for sure. It was another good roundup.
Awesome. That's going to do it for us, guys. Thanks for watching. Happy flying. What are you still doing here? The video's over. Do you watch all the videos all the way to the end? Wow. You are a super fan. Thank you. That actually helps the channel a lot when you watch the videos all the way to the end. YouTube loves that. You know what else YouTube loves? When you subscribe. Or when you join my Patreon for as little as $2 a month or more if you feel like I've earned. Actually, YouTube doesn't like you to join my Patreon. They don't get a cut of that.